Hello, welcome to another episode of the Intrepid Traveler podcast. And today we are going to talk about Sri Lanka. And we're going to learn about travel tea and why cinnamon that we have here in the United States, anyway, is not really cinnamon. So, welcome Malik Fernando of Resplendent Ceylon and Dilmah Tea Company, correct?
Indeed.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Great.
you,
Great.
Robin.
Yeah.
Happy,
Yeah.
happy to be with you.
Yes. Yes. So, first off, let's talk a little bit about you and how you got into this business. And before we started recording, you told me you were born and raised in Sri Lanka, boarding school in England, college in Boston, back to Sri Lanka and into tourism. So, yeah. So let's see. Let's see if we can package that up and
I'll
fill
try and,
everybody in on you.
2 minutes of how that connected to where I am now.
Right.
So, Robin, tea, it's all about tea. The world's best tea comes from Sri Lanka, which used to be called Ceylon. So I'm sure many of your listeners have heard of Ceylon, which is what this country used to be called till 1972. Then we had a name change. And our tea is still sold as Ceylon tea. And, the United States gets a fair share of our tea, although most of it goes to other parts of the world. When I came back from university in the US, I joined the family tea business, which my father started in the 1950s, and he's now 93 years of age, and he's the most senior sort of a person alive in the tea industry in Ceylon. And so my brother and I were trained to grow, to taste, and to package and export this Ceylon tea.
Okay.
And that's what we thought we'll be doing all our lives. And so if you fly basically on Emirates, they serve Dilmah tea for the last 30 years. On first class, they give you a beautiful Dilmah tea presenter, something similar in business, and also served on economy, similarly on Qatar Airlines, and
Oh,
so many top
interesting.
airlines and
Okay.
hotels. And we work with brands like Accor and Hilton and so on, who are looking for sort of a distinctive quality single origin tea, because our tea is packaged right here at source in Sri Lanka. It's not a mix of teas from wherever it is cheap. So it
Right.
is a very special product. And from there, if you're wondering how I got into tourism, and I'll tell you about cinnamon in a minute,
Yeah.
is that because I'm sure you was wondering what do you mean by cinnamon is not cinnamon? It really isn't. So on our tea estates are these really gorgeous historic tea planters bungalows, which were kind of a little bit disheveled and could do with some TLC. So to cut a long story short, a group of us got together and we converted five 100, 150-year-old tea planters, historic houses, bungalows in the middle of these stunning Ceylon tea fields into the first Relais Chateaux lodge in Sri Lanka. So there are five of these bungalows spread over several thousand acres between 2 and 15 kilometers apart. And you'd stay in one, you trek and mountain bike to another. So that really is the most iconic boutique property resort in the country. And that's really how I fell in love with the business you and I are in, which is travel, which is
Yeah.
all about passion. So I call
Yep.
myself an accidental hotelier.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us in the travel business got into it accidentally. I mean, obviously we all love travel and but the consistent thread I find is that people that are in this business are people. They love meeting people from different places, love hospitality, love, welcoming people to their country, their homes or their hotels, and it sounds like you're cut out of that same cloth exactly.
Absolutely. And particularly as my country, Sri Lanka, is, in my view, it really is underrated. It is God's own country. It has so much biodiversity. So I'm actually hosting a group of six American travel advisors who just arrived a couple of days ago, and they are doing a circuit across my properties. And, the first day I met them, they said, look, we've just arrived and hey, we're coming back. We're bringing our families and
That's
so on. So
awesome.
it's something that would really appeal to the American
Yeah.
traveler, if only more people knew about the country and what it
Right.
offers. So I'm
Right.
grateful for this opportunity.
Right, right, absolutely. Well, we're going to take a deep dive into what all the opportunities are there. But before we do that, first, okay, we'll let everybody in on the secret of why cinnamon isn't cinnamon. But you got to promise to stick around and listen till the end. Still, we're not going to make you wait on it.
Should I talk about it now or
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
end?
Go ahead. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
so here we go. So the Portuguese, I have a Portuguese name because we were invaded by Vasco da Gama in 1505, and he came to then Ceylon purely for our cinnamon because 93% of what they call true cinnamon or Cinnamonum zeylanicum, which is the botanical name, is grown in this country.
Okay.
The other 7% is from Madagascar.
Hmm.
Most of the other so-called cinnamon is actually cassia from
Hmm.
Vietnam, from China, from a few other countries, which looks a little bit like cinnamon. It's not as sweet, it's not as healthy. So
Hmm.
most of what you have in the US, actually, if you Google true cinnamon or
Hmm.
Ceylon cinnamon, you do
Hmm.
get a bit of that in the US. So I think the purists will know what it is. But
Okay.
generally, if you have a cinnamon bun or something, it's not cinnamon. It's
Ah.
something else called cassia,
Ah.
which looks similar, which tastes a little bit
Yeah.
similar,
Yeah.
but it actually isn't the real thing,
Yeah, it's
which is only
not even
from
related really. It's like not even the
no,
same plant.
yeah,
Okay.
it is cassia. So that's how it is.
Okay.
But that's modern marketing for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and if we have time, we'll talk a little more about tea as well. But it's I think a similar thing along the lines of like really good coffee or really good tea and how it's grown and how it's picked and how it's processed and then again and then how it's brewed. But like I said, that's a whole nother conversation which hopefully we might have time for. But let's first talk about travel. So obviously you took well, first off, when you went to school, was your thought process always, I'm going to come back and be in the family tea business? Was that, or was that a detour from, what you thought you might be doing?
No, no, no. It was always come back to the family tea business because I knew how difficult, how hard my father worked to kind of put together the funds for our education for my brother and I. And, and it wasn't easy back then going overseas and studying.
Right.
So I knew I was going to come back. And in fact, when I left, I was at university at a place called Babson College, which is known for entrepreneurial studies, just west of Boston.
Okay.
And I was actually offered an internship or some sort of job at McKinsey. And I
Uh-huh.
told the
Yeah.
careers advisor, I turned it down. And they said, what? They
Oh,
only give
right.
us
Yeah,
two jobs a
exactly.
year and you're turning McKinsey down. I said, yes, I have a higher calling, which is the family
Uh,
business.
oh, that's
And
great. I
I
love
came
that.
back immediately and I've been
Yeah.
there since, but
Well,
in a
good.
different part now of the hotels.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. So, okay, so let's then go into first, how did you, like you said, you had these estates, you had the bungalows, they needed the, refurbishing and, bringing up to speed and so forth. And how did that process start? Where did that sort of dream become a reality? And how'd that happen?
So, Robin, I was overlooking the tea growing side of the business, and I spent a lot of time in the tea fields. The tea country in Sri Lanka is absolutely spectacular. It's in the central highlands. It's about 500,000 acres of rolling emerald green hills. It's at about 2,000 meters or about 6,000 feet. So it's very cool climates, waterfalls, and it really is quite beautiful. And for many Sri Lankans, it's the nicest part of the country. And that it had not been touched by tourism. It's all working tea estates. So I saw one house and I thought, let's sort of convert it and upgrade it. And then in the end, we did five in all with 27 rooms. And this was back in 2005.
Okay.
And it was so well received by our initial guests that many of them wrote saying, it's such a wonderful experience. It doesn't feel like a hotel. Amazing butler service. It's fully inclusive. You don't have a room key when you enter. If you insist, we'll give you one, but no one's asked us in the
Mm-hmm.
last 18 years. And you feel very much at home, like you're visiting a wealthy tea plantation owning uncle's home for the weekend. And they said, when we go from you and the property is called Ceylon Tea Trails. We call it tea trails because there are marked trails between the bungalows. You stay
Okay.
in one, you trek or mountain bike guided or on your own to another one. So you stay at Castlereagh, you go to Tientsin for lunch, you can go to Dunkeld for afternoon tea. You can use any of the bungalows like your own. And people wrote saying, it's such a wonderful experience, but anywhere I went else in Sri Lanka, I couldn't experience a similar kind of property hotel. Why don't you consider expanding? And to cut a long story short, that's what I did. In 2014, I opened on one of our coconut estates on the coast, overlooking the Indian Ocean, near an ancient city called Gaul, which is a World Heritage Site.
Mm-hmm.
I opened Cape Eligana, which is the second Relais Chateaux, which is just 39 villas and suites, and that's the most iconic place on the south coast. And then 3 years later, I opened Wild Coast Tented Lodge, which is this really cool tented safari camp next to a national park where leopards and bear and elephants roam.
Oh,
And the
wow.
tents are
I have
called
no idea.
cocoons.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. We've got the best wildlife outside Africa. We have a permanent colony of blue whale, and then an hour later on shore you meet, which is the largest, obviously the ocean mammal. An hour later you can meet the largest land mammal, which is an elephant. And our diversity is unmatched. You can have
Wow.
it's a continent's worth of attractions in one small island. We're about the size of West Virginia,
Okay.
and we've got 8 World Heritage sites. A lot of the old Hollywood movies were filmed here. Bridge
Oh,
on the River Kwai,
yep.
Indiana Jones, some of the Indiana Jones movies, a lot of the old Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor movies, because it's like a movie set. Everywhere you go, you've got so many different scenic uh, vistas.
Interesting.
And
Is it still?
and
Do they still come film movies? Yeah.
well, you see, now back then we were one of the earliest countries to open in Asia.
Okay.
So Bridge on the River Kwai was filmed here because Burma wasn't open and it
Right.
was easier than Thailand at the time. So now that the world has opened up and so on, it's easier to film wherever you want. But
Okay.
back then we substituted for many, many countries
Okay.
because of the diversity that we have. So
I
we do have
see.
movies shot here, but the Hollywood movies, a lot of them now are filmed on sets or they go anywhere. But
Sure. Sure.
back in the 50s and 60s, we really were quite iconic because we offered so many sets, so to speak.
Yeah. So let me stop you for just a second. I mean, that's really interesting. You keep talking about the diversity. And when I look at the map of Sri Lanka, just if I Google Sri Lanka, I wouldn't get that impression looking at it. I would think,
No,
okay, we've probably got beaches all around the outside and probably some mountains in the middle. And that would be my
yeah,
assessment just from looking at the map. So explain like, north to south or east to west or whatever, what you can expect
yeah,
to see in this diversity and the different things you can experience.
yeah. First of all, your point about searching for Sri Lanka, we're really awful at marketing our country. So
Okay.
it's really a 6-star country with maybe a 3-star perception because
Okay.
we we just can't position the country. It's very frustrating, and I shout and I scream and I do what I can, but it's that's really a weak point. So those who've been to Sri Lanka know all about it and they rave about it. But those who haven't been have a very sort of a generic, bland idea that is okay. It's just a South Asian country, but gosh, no. So if you look at the country, even if you look at on Google Maps, you see how green it is
Mm-hmm.
versus the neighboring countries. You see that because we've got an amazing climate. You've got the 2 monsoons, you've got the central mountains. In the just north of the central mountains, in our north central province, you've got the remnants of a 2,000-year-old civilization. Theravada Buddhism emanated from Sri Lanka. We're primarily a Buddhist country. So we have ancient monuments that rival Angkor Wat in the north central province in the area called the Cultural Triangle. Then you've got these great safari national parks, about 20% of our country set aside for wildlife and national parks. You've got fantastic surfing. You've got great beaches. You've got trekking and mountain biking up in the mountains. And you've got the East Coast is totally different, beautiful white sand beaches. So it's really about amazing diversity that you don't have in many other countries, certainly not of its size. It's just 400 by 200 kilometers. You move around, you land at the international airport, a 25-minute float plane, you land on the lake at T-trails at 2,000 meters or
Okay.
6,000 feet. Every 5 minutes you fly, you get a totally different view below you. So it doesn't take long to get to any of our properties.
Right.
And you actually do a circuit. We call it the Resplendent Sri Lanka journey because it's a purpose-made journey from the tea country to a safari lodge on a beach, which is very rare to have a national park and a game lodge right on the ocean. And then you'd come to a coastal property where you've got cinnamon plantations, low country tea, great surfing, whale watching. So Sri Lanka is really a round trip and people visit. They don't just stay in one place. They would go to two or three. They might even go to 4 or 5 places if they're
Okay.
here for longer than 2 weeks. So you feel like you visited a continent, but it's been a lot more convenient than that
Yeah. Yeah.
because everything is fairly close to each other. And our infrastructure has improved. We've got a great highway network now on the south coast, so it doesn't take long at all to get anywhere. So it's really that biodiversity and the range of attractions that most countries 10 times our size
Yeah.
just don't offer. So you
Yeah.
really get a really variable holiday. Another fantastic way is that the Maldives is obviously very popular, but Maldives is obviously, great beaches. If you're a diver, there's a lot to do, but you're on an island,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. But I would say that the best holiday is to combine the Maldives, where you go to relax and to chill after some touring in Sri Lanka. So
Okay.
you do the historic sites, you do the game parks, you go to the coastal areas, whale watching, cinnamon plantations, spend minimum of 7, I would say up to 10 or 12 days. And then if you go across to the Maldives, and Robin, guess how far? Do you have any idea how far the Maldives is from Sri Lanka?
No, I have no idea. Tell us.
It's 45 minutes.
Wow. All
45
right, I'm
minutes.
ready.
So
Sign me up. I'm going
yeah,
to Sri Lanka and
honestly,
going to the Maldives.
yeah, yeah. Why not piggyback on the Maldives? If you're awful
Yeah.
at promoting ourselves, everyone knows where the Maldives is. And when we say we're just 45 minutes away, and it's a wonderful combination with the Maldives. You
Yeah.
do Sri Lanka and then you go to the Maldives. It's a dream two-center holiday. You could even twin it with Dubai
Yeah.
if you're say flying on Emirates.
Right.
So Sri Lanka is really a gem
So
waiting to be discovered.
yeah, and obviously, so it's not as hard to get to as one would think. That's always the kind of the struggle, if you will. I mean, but that's even true for us here. Even getting to some of our Caribbean islands is difficult. Like, if you live in a certain part of the United States and there's certain islands you want to go to, it might be a 24-hour thing to get there because you can't get your flights to line up the right way. So you might be able to get to Sri
Sri
Lanka in the
Lanka,
same amount
Sri
of
Lanka will be
time.
quicker.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Thanks,
Exactly.
thanks to
Yeah.
the Gulf. Yeah, thanks to the Gulf carriers. They would fly point to point to Doha or Dubai
Yeah.
or Abu Dhabi. And then from there are like 5 or 6
hmm
flights a day to Sri Lanka. So
Yeah.
I would say to get here, I mean, a lot of people would do it as part of an Asia journey or you do
hmm
the Twin Center. So I would say, I mean, if you're flying from New York, it would be less, it'll be 22, 21
Right. Right.
22 hours. Some of our travel advisors who are with me right now flew from New York. It took them 22 hours maybe.
Right.
And if you're from the West Coast, you do Singapore Airlines,
hmm
Cathay,
Yeah.
Thai, something
Yeah.
like that. So
Now,
it's so much easier now.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now with those, and I don't want to get like too much into the logistics of it, but it does help people to understand. So on those kind of airlines, so let's say you stop in Doha or, Dubai or, one of the, Asian countries further east. Do they then fly straight into Colombo or do you
Yes,
have to, okay. All right. That's great. Yeah.
non-stop,
So yeah,
non-stop. So you have if you're connecting via the Gulf, it's probably like a 1.5 to 2 hour layover. It's very
hmm
efficient, and then it's non-stop. So
hmm
from the Middle East, from Dubai, for example, is 4 hours
hmm
to Colombo. From Doha is maybe 4.5. So it's seamless. I mean,
Yeah.
you fly on great in-flight service,
Yeah.
nice cabins, and you spend an hour or so just chilling in the lounge,
Yeah.
wherever, and then
Yeah.
4 hours later you land in Colombo.
Yeah.
And when you land in Colombo, you're out of the airport in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You're on the highway,
Mm-hmm.
and you're directly connected. Within 2 hours you get to the deep south coast. It's a beautiful highway that
Right.
goes directly from the airport all the way along the south coast,
Right.
or you take the float plane and head up to T trails from the
Yeah.
same airport, from
Okay.
the same tarmac, and you're there half an hour
Okay.
later. So it's really very, very easy.
And that's a great segue into my next question was, so it sounds like it's a combination of driving and, small planes, depending on how many stops you're gonna make and everything. But there's doesn't sound like, as small as the island is, could be a lot of travel time. It sounds like the travel time can be fairly short between destinations if you're doing this circuit.
Yeah, if you're going to the mountains, I recommend you fly, and that
Mm-hmm.
makes the 4 hour journey 30 minutes. If
Mm-hmm.
you're along the coast, it's a very pleasant, relatively traffic-free, beautiful highway that takes you through rubber, tea, oil palm, rice paddies, one of the most beautiful highways in the world. So it's pretty seamless. It's just getting to the Central Highlands,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have highways, because you're going up to 6,000 feet. Our recommendation is to fly, and
Okay.
there is a float plane that lands on a water body right next to T trails, and the rest of it on road.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even do a beautiful. There's one of the world's most amazing rail journeys. The BBC recently had a program, which is the train that goes through the tea country. So you're going on a fairly slow train, and you're looking out, and there's emerald tea fields both sides. You can stick your head out of the window. It's not one of these
Uh,
Treasury
yeah.
closed trains, and it's so photogenic.
Yeah.
And there are elements of that you can take when you get up to the mountains.
Wow. Okay, great. Would you suggest this kind of trip for a family?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
especially for families, because there's so much for kids, so much for
Okay.
multi-generational travels.
Hmm.
And one thing about Sri Lanka is it's there. It meets most demographics. It's great for honeymooners. Even for older folk, it's very easy to get around.
Hmm.
For you get a lot of backpackers and college kids,
Yep.
and families particularly,
Okay.
because Sri Lankans. I didn't mention this in terms of one of our biggest assets are our people. They're just so warm and friendly. It's authentic.
Hmm.
It's not every destination where people are genuinely warm and happy to see
Hmm.
you, and
Hmm.
it's an authentic smile.
Yep.
We are not forced. We are genuinely welcoming of all
Yeah.
travelers. So you find, particularly with kids, Sri Lankans love kids.
Yeah.
So you'd find that the staff would delight in
Yeah.
interacting with your
Oh.
young kids.
Well, and
Um,
it sounds very safe too, to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a lot of solo female travelers backpacking
Hmm.
through the country. It
Hmm.
is.
Yep.
We've had a history way back 15 years ago. We've had a couple of issues. I mean, of course, we were shut during COVID as well, but we've had problems in the past, which are very much behind us.
Okay.
And we're looking to the future with confidence. And it is now one of the safest destinations, if not
Okay.
the safest in Asia, as judged by the percentage of single female travelers
Okay.
who come here.
Okay.
Um, so it's safe for any kind of group.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So, what would you say is the biggest misconception? Like, what do you hear people say like is keeps them from wanting to take a trip there? What do you think people believe that isn't true about the country?
Uh,
As
they
far-
believe, I think, okay, they think that we are just a generic South Asian destination. They
Okay.
might.
Yeah.
They might think also wrongly that there is no luxury, that we don't
Mm-hmm.
have upscale travel. We
Right.
do. I mean, I have 3 Relais Chateaux lodges. You've got international brands here. We
Yeah.
have luxury here. We have probably the highest proportion of boutique properties versus we've not had that mad expansion of big corporate,
Sure.
concrete
Yep.
ribbon development that you have in other parts.
Yep.
So we've got more boutique properties
Mm-hmm.
than many other destinations. So,
Yeah.
so anyone who thinks there's no luxury, that is not upscale, part of the problem is that our rates are far too low.
Uh-huh.
If you look at the rates that American travelers are paying in Europe now, or in the US, or in certainly in Europe and
Mm-hmm.
Japan, for
Yep.
example, you're really paying. I mean, rates have gone up thousands of dollars over the years. Sri Lanka
Yes.
is fabulous value for money.
Yeah.
I was reading a recent Bloomberg survey where, the bucket list traveler, the ultra high net worth traveler who flies private really couldn't care less. But if you look at someone who's, the bucket list traveler who really wants to go and enjoy luxury experience, they're no longer in the revenge travel mode. They want
Mm-hmm.
some value for money, which you
Right.
don't get in many destinations, which have
Right.
just taken advantage of the very strong dollar.
Right.
So Sri Lanka offers fabulous value. So when I tell our travel advisors that my Relais Chateaux lodges, fully inclusive, and these are, amazing service, stunning Relais standard food, can be had for around $1,000 a night
Mm-hmm.
for a room, not per
Mm-hmm.
person,
Right.
for a room, fully inclusive,
Mm-hmm.
including meals, drinks, no buffets, gourmet meals, a la
Mm-hmm.
carte, wines and spirits. They're like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we would pay for a really high-end bottle of wine
Yeah.
at a restaurant in Paris. So
Yeah.
for travel advisors need to be aware that Sri Lanka offers this amazing value. And to be honest,
Yes.
a lot of Asia does, because the other destinations have really been swamped
Yeah.
and they've really pushed their prices up, I
Yeah.
think, to unsustainable
Oh,
level.
yeah, that is absolutely true. And just to date this so that anybody that's listening to this in the future knows, this is April of 2023 when we're talking about that, and we are just seeing surging prices that are just, some are just absolutely jaw-dropping and eye-popping. Um, so, and what I'm hearing from you too, and this is really like speaks to me, to the kind of traveler that I am. I mean, I love some luxury, but I like some place that is, I can learn something. It sounds like there's a lot to learn there. If you're interested in tea or history, you're talking about the ruins and the history of the country. You can get some great activity, talking about mountain biking and trekking, and you can get some downtime on the beautiful white beaches or fly off to the Maldives afterward. I mean, it just sounds like it's a total package. And the other thing I'll add that you did, touch on, but I know from speaking to friends that have been there that they have told me that this level of service is just off the charts. That, like, I mean, basically, you reach for the button to call somebody and they're already there.
See, yeah, it's spot on. You see, the thing is that it's again, it's anticipation and genuine care. So I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier about the warmth and the genuine
Yeah.
care to make travelers, visitors, holiday
Mm-hmm.
as an honored guest really memorable and wonderful, because everyone in the tourism industry is passionate about the country and they want to showcase it
Yeah.
in its best light.
Yeah.
We've not been swamped by millions of travelers where we've
Right.
got jaded and kind of spoiled, so to speak.
Yeah.
In terms of authenticity, this is not the place to come for gold taps. This is not the place to come for vintage champagne menus
Right.
or for the longest list of types of caviar. This
Sure.
is this is authentic luxury in my
Yeah.
view. This is experiential luxury. This is the
Yeah.
kind of place where you would want your children to say, this is the world. This
Yeah.
is another culture. This
Yeah.
is authenticity. This is not, you're not in a sort of a bubble
Yeah.
that you might be in some other destinations where they're looking at a level of sameness and trying to go over the top.
Right.
So here it's about
Yeah.
authenticity and really connecting, because nature is all around you.
Yeah.
We don't have these massive 10, 20, 30 acre resorts. You've got 1 or 2 acres. So my teachers' bungalows, if you look at some of the images, they are surrounded by working tea fields.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see the locals going about their business,
Yeah.
and you really connect with
Yeah.
society. So I was talking earlier about how you can connect Sri Lanka with other destinations. So here we've got amazing food. A lot of our food is turmeric and cinnamon
Mm-hmm.
based. We use a lot of coconut. It's the heritage, our culture. We have a 2,000-year-old civilization. So you connect with so many elements
Mm-hmm.
which kind of make our biodiversity is similar to Costa Rica. We're on that kind of
Okay.
scale.
Okay. Yep.
But they are better known for American travelers. So it is that authentic, genuine luxury that we
Mm-hmm.
offer.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing fake or contrived
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and the people, particularly, they speak to you from their heart.
I love that. Those are my favorite destinations. I have a couple that I've been to that just capture your heart, and most of that is the people. The destinations are fantastic, but it's really the people that make it. It sounds to me also like this would be an experience a little bit like stepping back in time with all the modern conveniences.
Yeah. You picked up on that well. Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what it is because it's a historic country. We have a lot of tradition,
Yep.
but we've also kept pace with what the modern traveler wants.
Yep.
So, I mean, I was there was a TV program that was being filmed up at T Trails. It's a global travel show that's appearing in a couple of months, and the presenters, I mean, they were roaming all over the country, and they said that the Wi-Fi and the mobile signal here was better than any other country they'd been to.
Oh wow.
Very fast speeds, and the road network has improved dramatically. There's great, air. We don't have the big jets
Mm-hmm.
flying domestic because it's a small country, but
Mm-hmm.
using small
Mm-hmm.
aircraft and helicopters.
Yeah.
So it's pretty seamless, and we
Yeah.
understand tourism because we've been in this game as a country since the late 60s.
Yeah.
We opened up long before many other countries in Asia. So you're quite right. You're kind of going back to a more spacious,
Yeah.
relaxed, authentic
Sure. Sure.
age. It's not a tourism Disneyland, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great way. That's a great way to put it. So, okay, last question before we wrap up. Is there a best time of year to travel, and is there a time of year not to travel? I mean, do you have a big rainy season, or how should somebody plan their calendar?
So typically we have two monsoons. So you have either coast in season at one time or the other. Most
Okay,
of the resorts are on the west coast, south coast, and the Central Highlands, for which
okay,
middle of December to end of Easter, early May, which is aligned with your winters, is that's the best time to travel, and that's our peak season. So
okay,
between Christmas over festive, all the way through till April or May, and then again July, August, we have a good season where it's dry. Temperature doesn't
okay,
change; it's always in its 30s, except when you're in the mountains, it's in the 20s. You
okay,
might even need a log fire. It's just wet or dry.
okay.
So the dry season, ideal time is, I would say, your winter. So you're in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the Kentucky winter is the
Yeah,
ideal time to come. And when it's summer where you are, then you have so many beautiful places in the United States to go to. So
right.
come to us when it's cold, when it's
Okay.
freezing there.
Well, I'm happy to get out of the cold. I can promise you that. I do not love the cold weather at all. So I'm always searching for places to go in the winter. And Sri Lanka has just moved to the very top of my list, I can tell you.
Excellent, excellent. I look forward to seeing you here before long.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And anybody that's listening that's interested in finding out more about Sri Lanka in general and Resplendent Ceylon in particular, feel free to reach out to either of us. And we both have websites, and would be glad to talk to you about it a little more. And hopefully we can help arrange a few trips. Let's see, huh?
And when you do come down, please bring me some of your best Kentucky bourbon, what we
Oh
were
yeah.
talking about earlier.
Yes, that goes without saying. When you check the bags, you can bring that stuff, and then I can stock up on a few things to take back with me,
Yeah,
right? What trade?
I'll trade you for cinnamon.
Okay, all right, real cinnamon. Okay, I'll bring you bourbon, you give me real cinnamon. Okay, that's a deal. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Thank
Superb.
you so much, Malik.